Hey everybody, happy Remembrance Day to you all in Canada and Veterans Day in the United States. You know, this day is a holiday in the US, but not in Canada. This is just one of the many ways that Canadians are duped into working more for less by a combination of government infidelity and popular ignorance. Why the hell can't the US and Canada line up their holidays to be on the same days? Is it really that hard? We are enjoying a super snowy day here in the north, up in Toronto, and I do mean snow. Those who claim climate change is a fraud are jumping up and down with glee, shouting that snow in November is somehow proof that global warming does not exist. I'm no expert, but with heat records beat this year from Antarctica to Siberia and everywhere in between, you must have a pretty selective mindset to ignore that most basic of data points. Though our governments would likely forge temperature data just as readily as they do jobs data to foist their own brand of doublespeak upon us, the existence of that pesky little device called a thermometer prevents them from even trying it. Though, with the incremental dumbing down of America long underway, as evidenced by that champion of democracy and principle in the White House himself, Donald Trump, there is an increasing likelihood that the ability to read a thermometer might soon be a lost art in the lower 48. Much like the investing public has lost the ability to conduct the most basic due diligence. Instead of a measured response to the inevitable correction to an overbought market in Canada in cannabis, we get Chicken Little running around proclaiming, "The sky is falling, the sky is falling." What's happening in the cannabis industry is a perfect lesson for what happens in a world where an excess of capital and liquidity causes giant bubbles to inflate and burst. Too much money in the system needs to find a home, which lowers the quality of due diligence and the expectation of quality of investable deals. Rather than endure the zero chance of making money boredom of life on the sidelines, many market participants prefer to risk it all on a dicey business proposition. We've seen it time and again. The dot-com bubble, the housing bubble, the securitized debt bubble, the mining bubble, the crypto bubble, and now the cannabis bubble. Bubble, bubble, boil, and trouble. Among the many failings of the promotional species trying to convince us that we're all about to make a fortune in cannabis is this willful insistence on ignoring certain realities. Here are the top 5 realities that the industry likes us to ignore. Number 1, the cannabis industry has been around for anywhere between 5,000 and 10,000 years, depending on who you listen to, and has only been illegal in small increments of time as the plant and its effects and or uses somehow begin to run contrary to someone else's interests. It is not a new business. There's a reason it's called weed. It's easy to grow, and yes, you can toss a few seeds into a mound of dirt, and barring a drought or a tornado, you will get weed that is plenty good enough to smoke without any master grower voodoo required. In every state where growing hemp is legal, there are literally tons of hemp rotting this year in the sun, rain, or snow because the supply of hemp has already far outstripped demand. There were over 480,000 acres of hemp harvested in 2019, at least double what can be absorbed by makers of hemp products. Number 4, the black market, which used to just be called the cannabis market, still supplies an estimated 80% of consumers of cannabis, and that ratio does not look like it's going to change anytime soon. And number 5, finally, here's the reality. Growing cannabis at home is fun, easy, and the best part, you know exactly what went into your weed and how potent it's going to be. Something neither the black market nor the new legal market can guarantee. Hey everybody, welcome to the Banjo Hour. You thought it was Midas Letter, whoops, put that there. Oh.
You started to sound like Johnny Winters.
Johnny Winters? Who the hell's that?
Jonathan Winters?
Jonathan Winters. That pedophile? Wasn't he a pedophile? Wrong, Jonathan Winters? Oh, I apologize, Jonathan. I'm confusing you with another pedophile. Anyways, no, I'm kidding, of course. Don Cherry got fired today. Big news.
Did he really?
He did. For insensitive remarks
Related to
insinuating that
Remembrance Day.
related to Remembrance Day, he insinuated that immigrants were guilty of not wearing poppies, though he said that he was upset that people in Toronto weren't wearing poppies, those people, and where he lives in Mississauga, everybody wears a poppy. I happen to know from demographic data that Mississauga has a much higher level of new immigrant residency than downtown Toronto.
Right.
So I thought Don was talking about the Bay Street assholes.
Money guys.
Yeah, those people. But no, turns out Don didn't back down, he didn't apologize, and he didn't agree. He just stuck to his guns and hasta luego muchacho. I guess he's going to start his own show on YouTube now, which means even less views for us. Maybe he'll come on our show. Stranger things have happened. Stranger things have happened. Hey, we had Rob Gronkowski on last week. Did you see that video? No? Go check it out. Go search for it. No, really, right now. Anyways, today, what's happening today? George Robinson will be here from Ravenquest Biomed. We're going to talk a bit about his the lawsuit filed by some other losers about, no, just kidding. The lawsuit filed against them for patent infringement. Anyways, he doesn't have anything to say about that because he can't because it's in front of the courts. Andrew McMahon and Samuel Belanger joined me for a conversation about Grow Buds. Now, that image you saw during the opening of us pulling our cannabis out of a tent, that was a tent sold to me by wegrowbuds.ca, and that is where I buy all of my cannabis growing gear, and so I thought, well, let's have the boys on the show. Then at 3:45 rather, we're going to have Pharmadrug founder and CEO Daniel Cohn will be here for a quick conversation, and that will be the extent of our show. We're going to talk about the snow. We're going to talk about the weather in Los Angeles, because that's where our show is going to be coming from next week. Can you believe it? Los Angeles, LA. Beautiful. Anyways, Edward, S&P action, what's going on?
You know, today is Remembrance Day, so a lot.
Don't forget.
Remember it's Remembrance Day.
Remember.
But you can expect a lot quieter action. I think you can even see it in the streets. I just was down in the underground at a cafeteria there, and there was no lineups.
I just ran through the concourse all the way up to Queen Street, which normally I couldn't go up to Queen Street at lunchtime because there's just too many people and it takes too long and the lineups and everything. I ran up to the Assembly Hall. Have you been to the Assembly Hall yet?
Wait, what did you get, something assembled?
Yes, I did. I had a ramen assembled. A red miso ramen. And it was delicious.
With a capital D.
Capital DELICIOUS.
Markets on this day usually don't show a lot of action.
What do you mean, on Mondays?
No, Remembrance Day.
Oh, I forgot about that. That's true, though.
And do you know that it seems that Hong Kong's flaring up a little more? There's been a couple serious injuries. One guy was set on fire, and one guy was shot by the police.
Self-immolation?
Well, it sounded like the protesters set this guy on fire.
Extra immolation.
Extra
immolation.
Yeah.
Huh, so he's fried?
Well, he's alive, but in very serious condition. But
they set him on fire?
I don't know what the details were. I don't know if he wanted to be set on fire. It sounded like a protest.
Wanted to be set on fire? Who the hell wants to be set on fire?
Look, I'm just trying to...
I mean, what is the guy, a phoenix?
I read this guy, rising from the ashes.
Did he rise?
He's not, he hasn't risen yet.
Because he hasn't been turned into ashes all the way.
Jesus?
Jesus.
Anyway,
Jesus was not a phoenix.
And then now the people that are trying to keep everything quiet shot an unarmed protester, and it looks like he
had no arms.
He could pass an unarmed.
He had no arms. So armed and unarmed, self-immolated and auto-immolated, or rather extra-immolated.
Yep.
Sounds like shit's going sideways there in Hong Kong. What do you think the chances are that the Hong Kong democratic impetus that is at the core of this protest movement, what are the chances that spilling over into mainland China, and how terrified of that possibility is mainland China?
I think they're terrified.
I think they're fucking horrified.
Well, the people in power are always terrified because they don't want to give up their power.
Well, look what happened to the President of the Russian guys, the Tsars. Look what happened to them.
Look at the newly elected president of Bolivia just resigned because of the mass protests.
Well, newly elected.
Well,
some would say tertiarily hijacked president of Evo Morales. Well, that's interesting. You know,
there's
throughout Latin America.
And you know what? Was a 15-year-old boy was gunned down.
A 50-year-old boy?
15.
Oh, okay.
15. Sorry for my
No, that's cool. I think of myself as a 55-year-old boy.
Yeah.
Never mind. I know that's low-hanging fruit.
Okay. So this, Malmo, Sweden. Malmo's the
peace-loving
third
town.
Shot dead 15-year-old boy in the big square in Malmo. Yeah.
What the fuck?
I was in Malmo 12 years ago.
How'd you get there?
From Denmark. Took the bridge.
Took the bridge.
They have a massive.
What were you doing in Denmark?
I went to the opening of the Ring Cycle at the new Opera House.
No shit.
Yeah.
That's quite the posh event for you.
The Queen of Denmark.
This must have been when you were in the chips.
Yes. That was quite a trip. Yeah.
Huh.
Yeah. And at the time, it was ranked the #1 opera house in the world.
You know, your new publication is going to resurrect those days.
Okay. I got a lot to talk about.
So get ready to see Ed in his Sunday best, his smoking jacket, his debonair outfit. He will be...
Is it debonair or debonair?
It depends what you have. It's up to you, actually.
Yeah, it's up to you.
But
your call on this one.
Yeah. How do you feel about that? Okay, so let's take a look. Let's start with. Why don't we take a look at? You know what? Have you watched the morning show, the new show on Apple TV Plus, starring Jennifer Aniston, Billy Crudup?
She won an award for this, or did she? Or I guess
Has she?
I don't know.
Well, she wins an award in the show. But the show is really cool because it's how they, all that goes into a real TV show. So I've been enjoying watching it. But anyway, so enough about that. Here are the indexes, and in a moment I'm going to show them to you. But right now I'm just going to allude to them and keep them guessing with oil.
Now I noticed we've got going across the ticker there. Friday's prices.
What?
Yeah,
prices.
I just saw weed go by at up $3. Well, it's down today. So
amazing.
Yeah.
Amazing. Yeah. Look, I'm getting. Here we are in the middle of our show, and I'm getting a call from Los Angeles, California. I don't even know who it could be, but I'll bet you it's AJ, who I would have to call back in 1 hour right after this show.
Okay.
All right. So we're looking at the small cap index now. It's up 1.11%, 698 to 622.21. The large cap index is down. Sorry, did I say up? It's down 1.11%. The large cap index is down 3.96% to down 260.85 points to 63.27 after Friday's big lift.
Yeah.
Inexplicable lift. Here's what happens. I bet you what happened was the Drake thing catalyzed, started off a lift in Canopy stock, which catalyzed a whole bunch of algos to trigger, and all these bots just started chasing Canopy.
And then stop losses got triggered, stop buys.
Losses, then the stop loss stops got triggered, and then the stop loss stops kicked in, and everyone lived happily ever after.
Right.
Anyways, notice I'm drinking tea today. This is unsweetened. Oya Ocha!
Is it tea time?
It's tea time right now.
You got a little vodka in there?
A little? I mean, vodka.
The glass doesn't make the martini, it's the vodka.
Oh, where did you get that?
Downstairs. You ever read those
you got
ads?
a martini downstairs?
No.
Where'd you get a martini downstairs at lunchtime here? Anyways, let's see what's happening in the news. Aurora Cannabis announced the 2019 AGM voting results, and it was an interesting outcome because some guys just squeaked through.
In the board?
Yeah.
Board guys.
Yeah, board guys. 5.49% of votes were withheld for Ronald Funk. I guess those are Ronald shares. Now, I don't know, so I'm not going to go delve into that any further. But, 42.6% of Aurora's shares were represented at the meeting. So that's interesting. That does not necessarily a quorum make, but I guess according to their articles it does because they voted. But so that's interesting because that clearly indicates that a real minority of shareholders elected this board of directors. Not to point out anything and not to fan any flames, but if I was an Aurora shareholder, I might be just a little bit chagrined
Yeah,
at that.
I got the chart of Aurora up here,
Let's pull up the chart of Aurora.
and I just want to make
Oh!
I want to make a point.
Yeah.
This is what happens. This is what happens in a when a bubble dies. But look at
Bubble bursts?
We're coming down. We hit this bottom, and then there's virtually no bounce. Like we've been going sideways now for a month and a half, and in a very tight range, and that just doesn't elicit any kind of excitement.
Tight elicits excitement in me.
Yeah. Jesus.
What the hell?
Okay.
It's snowing out, Ed. Those snowflakes are tighter than mouse's ears.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
What did you think? Something
Big
rude?
snowstorm tonight.
Big snowstorm tonight? What do you mean? What's this right now we're having?
It's not even holding, but it's supposed to get to
What do you mean it's not holding? The sidewalks are
you know what
covered.
the temperature's going to be in London, Ontario tomorrow night?
Minus 13 with wind chill.
Yeah.
Really?
Minus
I guessed?
10. Well, minus 10, minus 13 with wind chill, yeah.
I thought it was fully expected.
Then it's going to be warmer in Toronto, only minus 7.
You know where the farm is? We are getting 25 centimeters of snow today. That's why I had to come back today. I thought today was a holiday in Canada.
You're getting 25.
Yeah, 25 centimeters.
because there's more snow to the south of us.
That's right, on the lake effect.
And well, even down in New York, they say that 350 records for cold weather for this day are going to be broken.
No kidding. World records?
Well, records. Like I think
45s or 33 and a thirds?
78s.
We like ourselves laugh. So yeah, we were talking to George Robinson about RavenQuest Bio. He gave us a smart update, and here that is. I'm joined now by George Robinson, CEO of RavenQuest Biomed, trading on the CSE under RQB. George, welcome back.
Always great to be back, James.
You bet. George, quick question. I saw a press release today. There's somebody's making a claim for IP violation against RavenQuest. Do you care to comment on that?
Sure, I'll comment, but the comment is really, it's in front of the courts, but we've put a very strong internal process together that is really looking very good for us. But we'll leave it at that. We're excited to delve into this thing and deal with it, but it's before the courts.
Okay. Let's then start with an overview of what's happening in Edmonton right now at your plant there.
Well, the last time that you were there and you shot the video, we had the Grow Room 1 completely full, as you've seen.
Mm-hmm.
Grow Room 2 is starting to fill, and Grow Room 3 is starting to fill. And then lastly, we're just waiting for Health Canada to do its thing to get the other 5 rooms that you noticed when you were there up and running. Somewhat frustrating. Health Canada has had some information for the last couple of months, and we just haven't heard back from them, but we'll continue to press them to get that going on. But everything is on target and on plan, and Grow Rooms 1, 2, and 3 are looking fantastic.
Sure. You recently announced that you have received an export permit to send some product to Australia. Give us an update on what's happening there.
Yeah, you know what? We see Australia as an important place for us to be. I mean, we'd like to see the sun never set on RavenQuest. So to do that, we have to be able to find really great partners. And our partner out in Australia, Medcan, is just fantastic. So we've shipped the product. It's made it there. We've just got notice today that they've received that product. So now we have a guaranteed supply chain movement through all the customs and all of the different, let's say, regulatory bodies. So now we get to move forward in that. So it's really exciting time for us to find yet another place and another diverse revenue stream for RavenQuest.
Sure. You have been sort of making moves in Europe and around the world. How is the whole global footprint coming for RavenQuest?
I just think if you take a look at it outside of RavenQuest, I think what's happening out there is people are starting to realize that the largest part of the consumption that's really occurring in the medical market, and if you're focused on the medical market, Europe really tends to be the place to be. So us are continue to push to move into Portugal and establish cultivation, processing, and final product development. Gives us the opportunity to sort of not have to get into import and export permitting, Once you're cultivating in Europe, and especially in Portugal being a EU member, we can then ship on purchase order demand to any of the countries that are in that space. Two, it kind of reduces the amount of cost for shipping overseas, takes away about 8 to 10 weeks in application and permit processing on every order from Canada to there. It's an extremely important place to look like, and if you look at a minimum 400 million people, it's a huge, huge market that you have to be in.
Right. Okay. So then, do you see that the evolving landscape in Europe is still more of an opportunity for players who are not European? Or do you think that Europe's eventually going to sort of backfill its own production sort of scenario with its own players? And in terms of like the opportunities for companies like RavenQuest, how does that, you see that playing out in the future?
Well, you know what, there's a lot of interest amongst European-based countries to come in, but essentially today, most of them are asking for Canadian partners. The reason why is that we've got some lifetime, we've got some regulation, and we've got some proof that what we know how to do to produce good cannabis is something that we've already figured out. But in time, I think that will balance. So if you don't move there quickly enough, I think that's, in fact, where the problem will really exist, that if you're then maybe 3 to 5 years from now trying to ship in there, just the shipping costs and other things will make it hard to deal with. But it's no doubt that even seeing France get into a 2-year testing period, you're starting to see some countries that were not really part of this discussion even 12 months ago have entered into the discussion of medicinal cannabis. So I just see that as a huge market, much easier to work in than in the US, having different regulations state to state. I see this as being a very, very attractive market. And if you don't go in early and create a footprint, I think it's going to be very difficult for late players to come into that market.
Mm-hmm. Okay. I wanted to ask you, because you are, you have your sort of finger on the pulse of the entire Canadian industry. Hexo came out with a half-price marijuana, basically, and some other companies are starting to follow suit. Do you think that's going to drive the cost per gram down for consumers at the expense of LPs generally in Canada now?
Well, here's what I think is going to happen is that mid-grade cannabis, however that's defined, but let's say consumers have started to realize that they're not going to accept low-quality product. That means taste, texture, moisture levels. So what's happening to respond to that, people who may want to enter in and move product are going to have to reduce that price. So this is the commoditization of the industry. So if you're going to be a big player with multiple hundreds of thousands of kilograms, maybe this is the action that you're going to have to take. I think RavenQuest at 11,000 kilograms is nicely positioned to still offer a high quality product into the recreational space. But we're still medicinally focused. We'll have a portion of our product that goes in there, but we're not going to compete with those who are trying to sell 200, 300, or 600,000 kilograms into the retail market here. I think that's just a race to the bottom.
Sure. When we visited you there last, you were discussing some new lighting strategies that you were going to be deploying on an experimental basis. Have you deployed those, and if so, how is it working out?
So we've got the lights in, and we're going through all the testing of the lights. And what does that mean? We're looking at room temperatures. We're looking at PPFD. It's just a measurement of light pressure or light density. That's happening. We should be loading that garden up now that we've tested the lights. We know that they will last for the total life cycle of 8 weeks. Now the plant material will be going in there. So it's already gone through all of the initial testing. It's proven out. We've taken a look at cooling temperatures and temperatures around the light source. We've looked at light flow or airflow, so we're ready to go in there. So from what I understand from the production team, I guess early next week, now it's late this week, that cluster will be filled with cannabis with light. But we're really liking what we're seeing right now from overall light spectrum. And this is a spectrum developed by Dr. Synergy Carr and our design team. We've been able to design that very quickly and get it into the facility. So it's meeting all the requirements that we want from a spectrum perspective. It's meeting the requirements for the climate that we want to control it in. So we're now looking forward to load it in there, which should be next week.
You bet. All right, George, that's a fantastic update. We're going to leave it there for now, and I'll come back to you very soon. Thank you for the update.
Always great to chat with you, James.
Follow us on Twitter, Instagram, LinkedIn, and Facebook. Make sure you never miss a show by subscribing to our YouTube channel and clicking on the little notifications bell. If you're interested in getting monthly actionable investment ideas in the cannabis space to your inbox, subscribe to the newsletter at MidasLetter.com. Yeah, I'll build a bunch of houses there. Hey, everybody, welcome back. How about that, eh? How about what you're saying?
How about what?
So, how about Aleafia harvesting 10,000 kilograms of hemp at a cost of 8 cents per gram?
Can I ask you a question about this?
You may.
Because I don't understand the metrics as well as you do. They said that yield was very similar to the yields that that some operators are getting indoors. That's what they said in the press release. Like, it was, in other words, is it generally accepted that you're going to get less yield outdoors than indoors?
Generally accepted accounting practices?
No, just generally accepted marijuana practices.
Well, see, this is the problem with cannabis. It's like the biomass yield per square unit of measurement is not relative to indoor or outdoor as much as it is relative to volume of light, volume of
Conditions.
Exactly. So typically, indoor crops are grown for a much shorter time frame, whereas outdoor crops, in the Northern Hemisphere in particular, you grow one crop per year. You sow it in the spring, you harvest it in the fall. So the biomass could actually be much greater if you planted the right species of hemp. Some species of hemp grow to 16 or 20 feet tall and are 2/3 fiber and 1/3 cola by the time it's all said and grown and dried, maybe. Something like that. Other species are more cola than fiber, and so when you say we've harvested 10,000 kilograms of hemp, it doesn't necessarily mean that they've harvested 10,000 kilograms. Oh, okay, sorry, I stand corrected. Outdoor harvest yields 10,300 kilograms of dried flower at 8 cents per gram. So if you consider, in a worst case scenario, it takes 10 kilograms of hemp to make 1 kilogram of extract, which is all that hemp is used for generally. That's 80 cents per gram of extract. And so that would be $8 or $80 per kilogram of concentrate. $80 per kilogram. They sell it in 50 milliliter. Let's see, if we're going to do some quick math here, $80 per kilogram divided by, let's see, they sell it and call it 50 milliliter bottles. Boy, that's too much math for me to do right in front of everybody here because I'm going to have to make notes and scribble and get out my calculator. So anyways, other news, Uber co-founder Travis Kalanick sold $500 million in stock after his lockup period expired, lending credence to the theory that Uber is and always has been a bit of a lawbreaker when it comes to, the laws. Anyways.
Really?
Yeah, and they figured that there wasn't a huge rush for the exits at the expiry of the lockup because most of the stock held under lockups is underwater. Can you imagine?
Is that right?
Yeah.
Underwater.
Underwater.
Can I take a guess at what the Uber symbol is? Is it UBER?
That's a pretty good guess, I would say.
Wow.
But yeah, well, let's pull up an Uber chart.
Yeah,
why
let's
don't
do
we?
that. That's what we're going to do. We're going to do
Take
that
a
right
look at.
now. We're going to do.
Let's see how this bandit is riding off into the sunset with his saddlebags full of filthy lucre.
Lucre.
They're on my what?
27 to 2702. There's a 6. I'm going to put up a 6-month chart.
Oh.
Well, top left.
What is that? A cannabis deal?
Top left to bottom right. But it's still $27, and it's still got to be capped at. Was there a billion shares outstanding in this thing?
I have no idea. I remember not so long ago that every broker on the street was offering you up a special allocation of Uber shares, though, pre-IPO.
Yeah. So, then some bad news, sideways and down again. Yeah, when you look at the volume of rides that this company generates, it's mind-boggling.
Mind-boggling?
Yeah.
Look at Valengrow is up 23 cents to $3.38 today on earnings out. Let's take a quick look at that press release.
Is that today or is that Friday?
It's today.
Oh, really?
That's today's news.
Well, let's just see.
Yeah.
VGW.
VGW. Where the hell is it?
347, 349, up again.
Yeah. Yeah, Valens Grow is really surprising to the upside, though I do recall, who was it, Canaccord, that had a $4.50 target on them at one point?
Really? Mm-hmm. Interesting.
Boy, there's quite a, oh no, that's Friday's news.
You know, we're right at a level here, this 350 level. If anybody's looking at this, I think that's the number. Like there's sort of a little bit of resistance there. Now we've sort of gone through it. You know, we may this thing may go back to $4. Looks like it's trying.
So, as far as cannabis companies go in the big downturn since April, Valens Grow is probably the one that has been more resilient than others.
It's always been looked upon as a pretty good run company, well-run company, right?
Yeah.
Well, that's what people are looking at these days. They're not looking at
What they want, give the people what they want.
Interesting.
So what about who's the big trader in the cannabis space today, do you think?
Well, weed's got to be, you know, I want to put it up here. WED. Now, where is, what? Weed Canopy Growth Canada, there we go. Now, why?
Okay.
Okay, all I got to do is try and figure out how to get this thing out of the way. How?
Can't see that.
What?
All right, so let's see. Neptune announced a definitive agreement with International Flavors and Fragrance to co-develop hemp-derived CBD products. So Neptune is starting to see an uptick in business interest. That's a good thing. So the other person who we had a nice conversation with, another person, the boys from We Grow Buds visited us at the studio to talk about how great and fun and easy it is and inexpensive it is to grow cannabis at home as in Canada. And here they are. I'm joined now by Andrew McMahon and Samuel Belanger, who are President and CEO and Vice President and COO, respectively. Gentlemen, welcome.
Thanks for having us.
Your company is Grow Buds, and you provide home growing equipment for anybody in Canada who wants to grow their own cannabis, correct?
Correct.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And full disclosure, I'm a client of Grow Buds, and this is why the guys are here, is because I'm very pleased with the gear that I've been given. It has produced a lot of the comedy that has gone on here indirectly, because sometimes we smoke it before we start the show. But okay, so you guys, I mean, in Canada you can grow in 4 plants,
Yep.
and so you have in your website, I've noticed that you've got very specific. In fact, the reason I came to you guys in the first place was because I first started with a company that was associated with Aurora Cannabis.
Okay.
And I said, I want my 4-pot system, and because it's legal, blah, blah, blah. And the guy immediately starts trying to sell me a 10-pot system. And I'm like, why are you trying to sell me a 10-pot system? I live in Canada.
Yeah.
I have this show. It's not like I can bend the rules at all. I have like a big microscope up my ass all the time. So I want 4 pots. No, he wants to sell me this. I'm like, okay, you've lost my business. And that's
Yeah.
how I came across you guys. So how many, like what kind of volume are you guys doing now? What portion of Canada is growing weed at home?
Well, we first started business. The main idea was to. So we started by reading the report from Deloitte. So we noticed that 20% of cannabis consumers in Canada would actually grow their own. Like
Only 20%?
20% of the daily smokers in Canada.
We'll consider,
Canada.
growing their own cannabis. So
Okay.
So that's why we got the idea to actually start this way, because we didn't want to enter a segment of the market where there was a lot of competition. So that's why we chose home growing. And
Okay. And how do you determine what equipment to recommend? I mean, there's lots of things out there. In particular, the enclosed single unit,
Yep.
where you're supposed to just throw in your seeds
Yeah.
and it does the rest.
Exactly.
Grow boxes.
And that's where we wanted to, step away a bit from that in the beginning, because we already saw, a lot of companies trying to sell that plug and play option. However, cultivating cannabis is a bit more complicated than just, plugging a button. You have a lot of variables you want to take into account when you start doing this. So what we basically did is we partner up with experts in the matter, and we started designing these kits that, like the one you bought, and having, these different options that we could offer to clients. So they're directly on the website, so you can choose from, low-end lights, from high-end lights, and, low-end tents, and all that, major variables. You can just choose from there what you want to go with, depending on your budget, depending on what you're looking for, because there are, so many things. So we wanted to kind of simplify as much as we could, but at the same time, we didn't want to, simplify it too much and just giving people a one kit fits all solution. We wanted to get people, give people the option to.
Right. Growing cannabis, I mean, for somebody who's never done it, and this is the main thing I want people to understand, is that while it is a little bit more complicated than buying a single standalone system and expecting to get a great result, you can throw seeds in a flower pot and water it and you'll get cannabis.
Yep.
But if you want those big fat terpene and THC rich colas, then you have to take a little bit more care, and you have to take some time to understand the plant and what it wants.
Yeah.
But having said all that, it's not that hard. Like anybody can do it.
Absolutely.
And what is the cost? This I haven't warmed you up for this question. So if you don't know the answer off the top of your head, what does it cost per gram of dried flower to grow cannabis at home, assuming say just any White Widow, or like what is the cost per gram?
So the yield will always depend, like Sam said, it will depend on the light that you choose, the grow environment. There's a lot of variables to take into consideration. So let's take the initial cost of the setup. Like for example, for 4-plant system, it starts at like $1,200. With this setup, you can grow like for years and stuff. And so the average yield, like I said, it always depends. But for the average yield for 4 plants,
we've actually made an experiment, just because a lot of people are actually asking this question, and the answer is always different. It will depend on the strain you're growing. It will depend on the experience you have as a grower. It will depend on many different variables. But we did a kind of an experiment to have a rule of thumb to give people, and we grew 4 Blue Dream plants and in a $2,400 setup. So we had like a great LED, we had a great medium, great nutrients, all that stuff, and we were able to yield 750 grams in that tent.
In one crop.
On one crop.
So Blue Dream is like a 10-week flower,
somewhere around that.
6-week veg, 8-week veg.
We actually ended up. It took 4 months in total to get to the final yield. But after 4 months, we had like 750 grams, and it costed $2,400. So already there, it's $3 and something
for the first grow. But then you sell the system.
Right. So if you were to amortize the cost of the 10 over 10 years, then it's $204 per year. 750 grams then becomes like 1/10 of that, 30 cents per.
Exactly.
So that's the bottom line, is you can grow your own at home, and it's organic. This is the other thing I want to talk about.
It's actually your choice.
So I first ordered, no, I'm going organic. And it had been years since I'd grown in a hydroponic system. And once I started to get, rotting nutrient solution and going like, oh, yeah, that's right. That's why you don't grow organically, because it grows algae and other pathogens way too quickly. It's too organic. So then by switching to the mineral-based nutrient system, you're not actually sacrificing, you're not using chemicals per se, you're just using salts derived from minerals that don't qualify as organic according to the rules, but it's still more or less organic.
So yeah, you know, like some people, they want to go the organic way, like 100%, and they're doing great. Some people are just, you know, they develop their skills accordingly, and they have great results with this. But like you said, it can get a bit complicated sometimes dealing with all these organic factors. So yeah, mineral based is not necessarily chemical. You know, chemical is really more going to be when you're using pesticides, for example, and stuff like that, which is not necessary if you're keeping your environment clean and you don't have any pest issues and stuff like that. So yeah, I mean, it's really clean cannabis, that's for sure.
So if you wanted to grow pure organic, you can get the pure organic liquid nutrients.
Yep.
But what do you have to do? Like, what's the extra workload and pain in the ass that has to happen to grow organic?
It will depend. I mean, if you're growing in a tent, which is really like a sealed environment, and you're taking really good care of you know, keeping it really clean, and you don't have any contamination coming into this environment, you can grow organically using a good soil and a good like liquid and organic nutrients, and you won't have a lot of problems. You know, some people do it, and we've actually done it with the experiment that we did. We actually wanted to compare, you know, these two different mediums. So we went with mineral nutrients on 2 pots, and then on the other 2 we went with just organic nutrients and an organic soil, and we didn't have any issues. You know, so if you do it right, it can be hassle-free in a certain way.
Right. So, but you couldn't use the auto pot system with organic nutrients, could you? Because I found that as soon as you've got still water, that's when you start to get
they will probably say yes, you know, and I don't want to, you know, mislead
There are
you.
ways around, but you know, the thing with the autopot system is that the tubbing, like
Deep pipes.
organic nutrients tend to be like more concentrated, and it tends
The
to
pipe
clog
is
the
really
system.
small, so they tend to clog the system.
yeah.
And it's also, like you said, you know, water is sitting, so it's fed from the bottom. But there are ways around it, that's for sure. You know, just cutting the growing medium with a, for example, perlite or clay pebbles or stuff like that, it's going to allow more oxygen to access the roots, and so there's ways around it. So
Sure.
for sure.
Okay, so what is the cheapest entire kit that you guys sell for 4 plants?
For 4 plants.
The cheapest one would be, we actually have one kit from the one from.
No, but I think that the cheapest kit that we will sell is around $1,200, and that's having, you know, a Chinese light and a Chinese tent.
Yeah.
And it is, you can do something good with this, of
But
course.
it won't last as long.
It is quite surprising, and
Really?
I mean, like Chinese lights, they have improved, and they're, I mean, there's like a 3 years warranty on them. So I mean, you can do. It's gonna last. It's gonna be good. It's just that you're not going to have maybe the top of
Mainly
it.
the material quality that you're getting. Like
And not
the
only
tents
that.
will be cheaper.
Right.
They won't support as much weight, like for the lights and stuff. So that's where you.
Right. So the top of the line, which I think I went for the top of the line,
Yeah.
which is mostly built around your light choice. So the
Exactly.
Spectrum
Yeah.
King
That's
lights
what I was about to say. Yeah.
are, you know, they're amazing. Like I just
Are they?
love those lights.
Yeah.
Because when I used to grow a long time ago, you had 1,000-watt halides with these ballasts and these systems that were like, you were in danger of getting electrocuted all the time.
Yeah.
And the ballasts are expensive to maintain and to change, and the bulbs are crazy.
You have to change
Yeah.
the bulbs. Yeah, a lot of people, you know, are moving away from this. There are still a lot of people who have great results doing that, and they're used to it. So it's great, you know, some people, and we do offer that option as well, right?
Cool.
But LED is definitely the new thing, and especially like the LED you went with, so like white light, full spectrum LED, and that is what I was about to say. It is going to be the light that is going to change most of the. I mean, all of the other variables are going to change the results, but the light is going to be the one who's going to change, you know, especially in terms of price.
Sure. So your website is at growbuds.com?
No, it's wegrowbuds.ca.
wegrowbuds.ca. Okay, so we'll leave it there for now, gentlemen. Thanks very much for joining me today.
It's a pleasure.
Pleasure.
Thanks for having me.
let's talk about Aurora. Recently, your financials, you've more or less delivered on
Here are the
what?
headlines moving markets today.
If you're lucky to buy it 3 days ago at 37 cents,
I think it has a lot to do with some of these smaller names giving really.
Recreational cannabis is here. It's quite dry. So I'm going to eliminate the stocky bits. That's how they do that. I asked Alan how they thought they did that, and he said, well, they must put the seed in the ground and then put the bottle over the seed. Hey, everybody, how you doing? Don't mind us, we're having a conversation on the side. If you haven't seen the morning show, the new Apple Plus TV thing with Jennifer Aniston, you got to watch it. It is.
Who else is in
good.
that?
Well, there's Steve Carell, Billy Crudup, Reese Witherspoon, to name just a few.
And what's it about? Is it about an actual morning show and what
It's
goes on?
basically about Matt Lauer and the morning show, and how Matt Lauer got fired from the morning show for
So who plays Matt Lauer?
Steve Carell.
Seriously,
Seriously.
he's pretty funny.
He is hilarious. And in this, this is the problem when comedians try to play serious roles. Even in this show, they've got him crying, and you think that he's laughing, and it makes you laugh. Because it's like, come on, this guy trying to play crying.
You can't.
If he was
it's like seeing, the guy that Ben, not Ben Affleck, but there's a who's
Ben Stiller?
Ben Stiller. When you see Ben Stiller trying to be serious, it doesn't work.
No, because he's just a funny guy.
You just look at him and you want to start laughing.
I know. It amazes me that comedians want to play funny roles. Like, if I was funny, I would never want to not be funny. I'd be a comedian all the time. Fortunately, I'm not that funny, so I can't be a comedian. I have to be a YouTuber. Yeehaw!
Yeah.
And that is fun. That is fun. The great thing about the morning show is it shows you how much production goes into these shows, and it makes me feel good about how good our show is with our small production team, because we really pull off quite a show with like 6 people.
Right.
And that's just incredible.
Well, you've got some real workhorses here.
Anyways, kudos to the control room. That's you guys.
Kudos to Crudo.
Quick shot. Come on, show us.
What?
Oh, why?
Well, they're probably don't have any clothes on or something.
They don't have any clothes on in there. They can't show the camera right now. Oh, that's horrible. Jesus. So, news item. Boeing expects to resume 737 MAX deliveries in December and commercial green light in January. Are you getting on a MAX 37?
I got to be honest with you. I don't think I would.
No. And in fact,
I'm astounded how easily the plane goes down, and then let's say you're waiting for the next plane, and you say, well, let's take the next one.
Right.
And you get on it.
Right.
Like, what a leap of faith.
I know. Well, so my question are these airlines actually going to, isn't everybody going to say, hi, I'm just calling. Yes, I know I can book online a lot faster, but I just wanted to ask, because it's not clear on the website, is this a 737 MAX plane that is scheduled for this flight? Because if it is, cancel my flight. I'm going to take another plane. I can't believe anybody would get on that. Obviously, not just Boeing, but the FAA has serious credibility issues now, and I think that the only planes that are going to be trusted are legacy planes that have been approved by, or that were built by Airbus. Because I don't know. To me, that all the information available just indicates a breakdown in integrity in the whole process of approving planes. The Boeing engineers knew that there was a problem, and then they suggested that pilots get extra testing, and then Boeing did not make sure that was part of the protocol of delivering a new plane to pilots.
So you think if these pilots that unfortunately perished in these commercial accidents, the commercial airline accidents, if they were tutored properly, or this wouldn't have happened? You think it was just a case of the...
Well, I couldn't say that in those terms. I can say with certainty that the chances of a recovery would definitely be much higher with the instructions and the information that this plane has a problem and here's how to fix it. But they didn't have either. They didn't know that there was a problem, and they didn't know how to fix it. It was in the manual, but they didn't make it part of the training. So the chances of recovering from that problem would have been much higher had they had that information, but they didn't. So I don't know. I find that quite amazing.
Yeah.
The
Yeah,
Center
for sure.
for Disease Control announced that they made a breakthrough in determining the cause of the deadly vaping illness, and that it was vitamin E acetate. Now, I thought that news had come out weeks ago, that vitamin E acetate was the suspect, and everybody had pretty much concluded that, oh, okay, I just won't smoke any vape that has vitamin E acetate if there's a way to figure that out.
And is there?
Yeah,
How?
take it apart and have it analyzed at the lab.
Take out the vitamin E acetate.
Well, just go buy a different vape, I think, is what you'd want to do. Anyways, it's a quiet day in markets because it's Veterans Day in the United States. It's Remembrance Day here, as we said at the outset. But
All Commonwealth countries, apparently, right?
well, the U.S. isn't a Commonwealth country,
Plus the U.S.
plus the U.S. Yeah, plus probably some other places. I mean, this is the thing.
Britain,
Britain's a Commonwealth country.
Yeah.
Yeah, they have Remembrance Day.
Australia,
Philippines.
New Zealand.
New Zealand? I think New Zealand is. Okay, but let's see among the big caps what's making a move today. I mean, as we saw earlier, all the large caps are mostly, all but two are down. Weeds lost 5% of its value down to 26.92. Aurora's lost 5% of its value, 478. And Kronos Group has lost 5% of its value down to 1068. So essentially, all of the largest companies by market cap gave back everything they gained on Friday's mysterious dead cat bounce. And I guess,
Well, weed's only down $1.40. It was up $3.
your point being,
Well, they didn't give it all back.
well, they will.
Okay, let's take a look at weed. Oh, by the way, Boeing's up sharply today. Just saying.
Really?
Yeah. on
Just
that.
because of that announcement?
Yeah. Wild, eh?
That is wild. Do you think the executives at Boeing called their brokers and said, okay, now you guys buy some stock today because we need to make this look like it flies, literally and figuratively.
You know what's interesting is that Tesla, which was, everyone was saying this is a bullshit company and blah, blah, blah. It's now gone from 200 or 190 bucks at the low or something like that. It's now back to about 340.
So another $100 and Elon Musk will be taking it private again. No, it's not a bullshit company. It's the real deal. I'm waiting for some forensic
Look at
expert
this,
to come through with,
345.
I'm waiting for some forensic expert to come through with the dirt on the financials. Like, how do you go from losing and to blowing away analyst estimates so dramatically in less than a year? Like, that's what I don't understand. That's why I reserve judgment. Elon Musk's certainly one of the biggest promoters I've ever encountered in my universe.
He's a Renaissance man.
Renaissance man.
I think so.
What does that mean exactly?
I don't know. It's in the Renaissance.
Jesus.
Renaissance man. Renaissance.
Anyways, we also have here today Daniel Cohen, founder of Pharma Drug.
Well,
Here he is. Pharma Drug CEO Daniel Cohen joins us now. Daniel, welcome.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Daniel, let's start with an overview. What does Pharma Drug do?
So Pharma Drug is a European-focused medical cannabis company.
Okay.
Our primary market right now is Germany, although we expect to expand into the other European markets as they liberalize and open up. We bought Pharma Drug bought the asset, the license back in, we made our first down payment back in February. We closed the acquisition in May, and we took over operational control.
Oh,
and
cool.
so I'm not sure how much you know about the German market. A lot of people know that it's one of the more exciting markets in Europe and that it's slated to be one of the biggest markets. However, it's still quite early, and we feel that we're one of the early players that is going to contribute to its development.
Okay.
Yeah.
Last I heard, there were 20,000 medical patients prescribed in Germany. Is that number grown?
The number grows, and it has grown. I forget what the latest specific number is, but the reality is that if you look at the Canadian market over the 5 years of the medical jurisdiction or framework before it went recreational, you went from 10,000 patients to 325,000 patients over a 5-year period. And Germany is 2.5 times the size of Canada. And so we are really, really in the early innings of Germany. And it might be 20, might be 30, might be a little bit more, but we are in that early period. And so while we're seeing really high growth, 80 to 100% a year, that exponential growth hasn't quite hit yet. And we expect that to start actually at some point in 2020.
Sure.
Yeah.
Okay, so you guys are growing cannabis in Germany?
No, there is no growing in Germany right now. That's the unique opportunity. Europe is it started later than North America did, obviously. And Germany, while it introduced its current framework in 2017, so it's only 2 to 3 years old right now, there is no growing in Germany right now. They import everything. They have given out 3 licenses for 3 different cultivators to develop, growing facilities. We expect them to be on by the end of 2020, perhaps early 2021. We know it always takes a little bit longer. However, the amount that they've been given to grow is not going to satisfy the demand in Germany. So we're going to see a continuous, infrastructure in Germany from the growing standpoint being behind where the demand actually is. So Germany will continue to be an importing market for the foreseeable future. So really, to be a player in Germany right now is to have the ability to bring product into Germany.
Oh, okay. So all 20,000 patients are mostly supplied by imported product.
The majority of the product right now actually comes from one source, and that's Bedrocan in Holland. There's only one LP, fully licensed LP in Holland. They're called Bedrocan. They can only sell to the Dutch government, and it's the Dutch government that sells to the German distributors right now. There's obviously some Canadian product that has started coming in. However, the majority of the product is still Bedrocan.
So the German government started, prescribing cannabis about 3 or 4 years ago, and yet it hasn't amped up, and mostly because everybody thinks it's a more conservative market. Is there the level of sort of investment going into German cannabis production at this point, or is the sort of conservativeness of the government dissuading investors from investing in Germany, and that's your opportunity?
I think the opportunity is that you're going to have the growing infrastructure is going to be behind the demand, as I had said before. The reasons for it aren't one-dimensional. There's always several factors going on. Definitely, whenever there is a new regime for medical cannabis, and that's obviously before recreational, it's obviously more conservative first. That was a factor. The other factor as well was that as they were looking to hand out cultivation licenses, the only people that had the expertise on a corporate level and in a legal jurisdiction were the Canadians. And I think there was some internal pressure in Germany to say, hey, whoa, let's not just give all the licenses out to the Canadians, give the German, parties time to catch up and get sophisticated enough so that we can not just develop this brand new market, brand new industry and give it to a foreigner. Obviously, the Germans want to make sure that there will be German participants as well. So that's also been a factor. That is starting to change. Obviously, like I said, 3 licenses have been handed out. We expect the production to start coming on stream in early 2021, whether it's late 2020 or early 2021. It'll reflect the demand, the constrained demand levels of 2018. So it's going to be 3 years behind. So that's one factor. You also always see a conservative nature when jurisdictions begin. However, that's already changing. We've seen recently that most of the major parties are talking about moving towards much more liberalized laws for cannabis, adult usage, recreational, or maybe just an easier way to be able to get access to medical cannabis. What's changed recently is that they have a new medical czar who's being proactive about talking about liberalizing laws more. And we've also seen a statement that the current ruling party, which is the most conservative of the larger parties in Europe, political parties in Europe, is talking about introducing adult usage as part of its policy. So, while we can say that the Germans are more conservative, they have been up to now, but that doesn't mean that it's not going to change the way it did in Canada.
So are the patients in Germany sort of having a hard time fulfilling their demand
Yeah.
at this point? They are.
They are. There's a problem with consistency, right? The majority of the product still comes from the Netherlands, and even then, you see a lack of consistency. Not every supplier is going to have access to that product at all times. Definitely, the sales figures that we've seen have been supply constrained figures, and we are starting to see some Canadian product, but there's been some problems having consistency in that product. So, not only is the liberalization or the society becoming more accepting of medical cannabis going to be a factor in the growth of the demand, not only is it going to be just time, right? As time goes on, growth continues, and that patient base grows. But I also think a significant factor is going to be the additional supply that's going to start to show up. You know, you can say that, hey, Germany accepts medical cannabis from importers because of the fact that we don't have any growing internally. That doesn't mean they're going to give up on the criteria that they need for the cannabis to be able to enter. And just like in Canada, we have some strict laws in terms of what Health Canada expects. The German regulators are perhaps even stricter. So, or even if it's not stricter, it might be different. Regulations in one country versus another. So the Canadian infrastructure, in terms of its growing, hasn't been perfectly linked up with what Germany is looking for. That's starting to change, and we're seeing more and more grows having the ability and the specifications that the German government's looking for. That's going to contribute to increased supply in Germany, which, like I said, is going to contribute to the growth of that market.
And what about recreational cannabis in Germany? Is that going to be a market anytime soon?
Just like I said, I don't look. Even if all parties agreed that they were willing to move towards recreational adult usage, it still probably requires a new election and it requires new laws being put into place. It'll probably take 3 to 5 years at the earliest before we see recreational cannabis in Germany. But that being said, the medical market is just getting started, and we're going to see exponential growth over the next few years in the medical market alone. And being one of the early players there is extremely lucrative, especially if the way to really introduce supply is not to be able to build and grow, but to source it from countries who have exportable medical cannabis, whether it be Canada or whether it be Israel, that's on the come, and perhaps even some other European countries. We see ourselves as having a unique strategic role to play in that market. A lot of the larger players in Canada have bought their own distributors in Germany, but they're looking to sell their own product. You have some German players who don't really know the Canadian landscape that well, and so we feel that as Canadians who understand and who know a lot of the players in Canada and who also are players in Germany, we have that unique role where we can be an amalgamator of medical supply that isn't already part of a value chain or a supply chain, and we could be the linkage of Canadian supply that wants to go to Europe but isn't part of a larger organization. And that's why we feel we're going to be able to allow a lot of supply into Germany.
Sure. So how does a German citizen obtain a prescription for cannabis as
they go to a doctor.
patient?
They go to a doctor.
So doctors are prescribing?
Yes.
Okay. So I'm curious as to why are there only 20,000 patients in Germany?
I actually think there's more than 20,000. I think
more?
it's 40 or 50,000 right now already. Well, you also have to understand, it only started in 2017. Right. So even if you take the Canadian, history, you start with 10,000 patients and then you go to 325,000 patients. For a first couple of years, it doubles. So 10 goes to 20, 20 goes to 40, so on and so forth. But to get to that 325,000, at some point it becomes exponential. And, we are at that point where we're 3 years in.
Right.
The supply is going to start to increase. So I actually think that what you're going to see over the next 2-3 years is a really large increase, an acceleration of the growth rate, and a massive increase in the size of the German market.
Wow. Okay, that's great. That's a cool introduction. We're going to leave it there for now. We'll have you back, and good luck with the progress in Germany. Look forward to seeing what's happening.
Thank you.
Let's talk about Aurora. Recently, your financials, you've more or less delivered on
Here are the
what?
headlines moving markets today.
If you're lucky to buy it 3 days ago at 37 cents,
And I think it has a lot to do with some of these smaller names giving really...
Recreational cannabis is here. It's quite dry. So I'm going to eliminate the stocky bits. Everybody, that's our show for today. Thank you very much for watching. We'll see you tomorrow. Don't forget to subscribe if you want to.